Podcast with Tek and Prem.
I think you guys need to understand that I don't play the game for anything other than to win. And my role in each game will be different, and the approach in each game is different. And you just want to go out there and do your job and take advantage of opportunities, obviously. And I think some things are magnified a little bit more because there's less opportunity in certain areas. But ultimately, it's about winning the game. We're talking about playoff football.
We're talking about playoff football.
He's not wrong.
It's the Vet Alumni Podcast. I'm Tek, he's Prem, and it's Sunday, 3 p.m., the divisional round.
Around
Eagles.
the day, they tend to win a lot in the divisional round, historically.
Yeah.
They don't lose much in
The
the divisional
Rams
round.
are coming to the Linc. And
At
look,
home, that is.
Jalen wasn't at his best, and hopefully that'll change. But I'm going to say this. Jalen can play the exact same way he played against Green Bay, and I think they win this game double digits.
Hey,
like
look,
we were saying
everyone's getting
before.
all crazy about Jalen. Yes, if you have a 111 quarterback rating, you're probably going to win most games. That's
Right,
what he had. He
and-
didn't make any mistakes. And this team,
That's what that rating is all about.
with this efficiency, with this defense and this run game and the skill position guys we have and to give it to Jalen, right? Every time Green Bay in the second half scored, what do? We immediately went down the field and made it a two-score game again. Twice he did that.
That's you can say that pretty much most weeks whenever
All year.
that happens.
All year long, he's been keeping us ahead where we know that we can just get that last drive. If there's 7 minutes on the clock and we're up, we're keeping the ball almost the rest of the game.
I was very frustrated with Kellen Moore. I didn't think he had the best offensive game plan, but after I watched the sky view of the film, I saw Orlovsky's breakdown.
It's pretty good.
And it led me to wanting to watch more. And I searched a bunch of the Skyview film and watched as much of it as I could find.
You were a student of the game.
I see why he did what he did. AJ was not 100%. Jalen was just coming off of his first brain injury of his career.
Yeah, man.
So
it was sitting for a month. It takes time to get going.
He kept it vanilla. He kept the game plan. There's a reason why when Green Bay seemingly knows all the routes, it's like that's because they're not running any routes. They're not doing anything.
Right.
They're going out there and doing very pedestrian things.
But he made some throws in that game that without those throws,
When
they lose the game.
Right. The check
They
down
lose
to
the game.
Dallas got
I mean, that
with
was
the
huge.
grown man touchdown.
What a yak TD.
That was the touchdown. That was they won when that happened. It was like this game's over.
You knew they were gonna. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
you knew in the
over.
first half that the Packers didn't have much to offer, but they
Right.
still had a pesky way of keeping you anxious.
We were keeping them around. I mean,
I know.
and
that
you
could
know
have been 23-3 at the half.
What I didn't love about the offensive game plan, but I understand it, was they knew they were hiding AJ's injury. They were, I'm not going to say hiding Jalen, but they were taking into heavy consideration it. Jalen had never been hurt like that in his entire life.
Right.
He never had a concussion, and it was a severe one.
Yeah.
So they wanted to be kind of vanilla with him and just keep him kind of alive and upright.
The juices are flowing again. That was the whole idea, I think. Let's get the juices flowing again. Let's get them back into the speed of the game.
They totally had, it was in the game plan. It wasn't like, well, the defense is playing good, let's just rely. No. They went into the game like, let's rely on the defense.
But that's the top 5 defense the Packers brought in here, and there's a reason for that. They forced
had
more
a good
turnovers
defensive
than
game.
almost anybody in the league this year.
Yeah.
And we didn't turn the ball over once against them. That's the thing with this Birds team. If they just don't turn it over, and Jalen just, makes the key second half throws and scrambles for the key second half third downs, we're almost impossible to beat.
I agree. What I found amusing is because I fed into it in the beginning too, several weeks back. And after seeing what I saw and realizing the other factors and why it was done, now I watch the people that take the screenshots of certain spots and they're like, look, Goddard's open right there.
There's
for a
context,
second.
though. There's context.
And Devontae's open right there, or AJ. And it's like, look, what people don't understand is what Sirianni and Kellen Moore do understand. And that is the quick release that they want to see that's all about timing and rhythm.
Right.
That's not Jalen's game.
But
and it never was.
Guess what was being done at practice today?
the timing and the rhythm, the quick throws.
I saw a video of him doing three-step throw. Three-step throw.
I was telling my dad that you're going to see that this week.
Oh, it's going to be fun
because of all what's going on.
You know what, Tek? I've probably said this till I'm red in the face on this show now. Episode 153, at least 50 of those episodes, that we've had AJ Brown.
Yeah,
I've said, just give me the three-step drop, quick slant. It's almost
That's
indefensible.
And I didn't see it all game.
Unless a linebacker is dropping back in like a Joker type of role.
Right.
That's there because he can't be stopped on that.
Right, and
it's 6 yards, easy.
He's good at the quick slant when there's an obvious step. When AJ has, when there's an obvious step.
If they're playing off him at all, it should be immediate audible.
Right, but here's the thing that I realize now, and that I still don't think a lot of the fan base fully understands, is that you see Tanner McKee do that easy. You know why? Because that's all Tanner McKee's got his whole life.
Right.
All he's got is two-step out. It's the only way the ball can come out, or else he will be sacked.
To that point, that first TD to Jahan Dotson, McKee doesn't make that play.
Right.
Because he's not going to be alive long enough to probably make that play.
Right, but the offensive line, by the way, was peak performance on that play.
You know what? This week, just looking ahead this week, the Rams D-line is young, they're fast, they're aggressive, but they're all undersized.
And they're going against the number one
line. Look,
O-line. And
this game is going to be
O-line is awful.
Yeah,
terrible.
This game's going to be won up front. I would say for all the bettors out there, Saquon 150 is almost a lock because I think he's going to break one of those 60, 70-yarders, and then the rest of the little carries will just tally.
Right.
And you could see Saquon $150. I could see Jalen 50 on the ground. It's going to be snowy conditions. I think they're going to just...
That's advantage birds. I
mean,
big time. Even though it's sloppy, sucks for both sides.
Oh, it's big advantage because the Rams don't win that way.
No, I know
the Rams win with flash and dash.
Stafford's used to that because he played all those years in Detroit.
They're indoors at Ford Field, though.
I get it.
And he's 1 in 8 in rain and snow.
See, this is advantage birds.
Tech.
This is advantage birds.
I mean, lay the house fund on the birds this week.
What I found disturbing, and I didn't bother to tweet all about because I wanted to wait and talk about it, and I'll tweet it later. But I wanted to wait and just bring up this. I've seen a lot of people still ring the Tanner McKee bell. I love Tanner McKee, okay? But when we're talking about how you didn't like the way Jalen played and Tanner McKee shit,
it's goofy. It doesn't work that way.
It bothers me because, like we were just saying, it's all McKee has is that quick, like Brady, like one step out. It's like that's all he's got. Hurts has a hitch in his throw. It's a slight hesitation, and I believe the coaching staff, like Sirianni, when Jalen Hurts was going through every week, throwing interception after interception after interception, they went back, they looked at the film, and they saw, he's putting the ball in harm's way because there's a certain deficiency to his passing game, and we have to coach that out of him. And they have. And in doing so, sometimes there will be a guy on the screenshot that you pause that's open for a half a beat. But what you're not getting is by the time he gets that ball out with that slight hitch, the DB could take that step
but
and
here's
pick
the
it
thing.
off. They're not putting the ball in harm's way.
Right,
That's
but you
the
mentioned
point.
McKee, right? It's not even a debate. It's almost like someone debating, like, we're going to drive a Corvette or we're going to drive an Escort.
They see McKee get rid of the ball, and they're like,
no,
bang,
but what
bang,
I'm saying
bang,
is,
bang,
it's
and
playoff football.
That.
You don't take your franchise guy.
Of course
These
not.
people that are saying that, they don't understand
and
football.
There's no debate.
It's not even an argument. It's like
yes, I said right away. It took me 3 snaps and 3 downs to go, oh, McKee's the best passer on the team. It doesn't matter, man.
It's more than that, though. This is playoff football.
Yes.
It's playoff football.
Jalen Hurts doesn't have to be the best passer. He just has to be efficient out there.
He just has to be himself, man. It's all he's got to do.
And another thing, let's not forget, Sam Darnold was put under pressure, and that's it. Folded like a cheap suit. That's all he can do.
He was always going to be turning back into a pumpkin.
Right. But you put Hurts under some of that same pressure on 3rd and 8, it's boom, first down for 15 yards, a 15-yard run.
Exactly.
It's not going to work the same way.
Or he's going to scramble, keep it alive, and find Dallas Goedert on a scramble drill.
Right. A check down, and then
this is
Goddard
what they do.
One of those grown
this is
men.
why they're so dangerous. That was beautiful. That's why they're so dangerous. I mean, look. Jalen obviously is not Peyton Manning, but he's not supposed to be. He's a better version. He's a better version of Mike Vick, is what he is.
Exactly. But like you were saying about practice, I think the game plan will be different this week. I think they come out, they get AJ. AJ is not going one catch for 10 yards this game.
No,
he was
no,
obviously hurt. They were hiding that injury. He was a decoy out there most of the game. He made more headlines for reading on the sidelines than he actually did in the game.
Which is just goofy.
And
Look,
he does that every week, by the way.
He's who he is.
Right.
Fans have to understand to embrace who he is.
He's
a three-time All-Pro. He's a three-time All-Pro.
Yeah,
let the guy breathe a little bit.
The game plan, I don't expect them to come out and do what they did against the Steelers, but I expect there to be a little more offensive game plan.
You know what I'm doing?
A little more passing.
Just because it's a playoff game, you're at home, and for the fact that it's just one play to start the game, I'm going heavy set look, 2 wideouts, 2 tight ends, Saquon, right? So heavy line look.
Yeah.
Sell hard on the stretch handoff.
Right.
Play action, and give me the fly route on 1st down and 10.
Right.
Hit one deep one. They're going to be selling out against Saquon as soon as you show that look.
I think they're going to go.
First drive of the game, hit me deep on the first play.
On the first play, I would do the old Vic Deshaun play where it's a play action.
Exactly.
Under
That's what I'm
center,
saying.
play action.
That's exactly what I'm
boom,
saying.
Down the field to Devontae or AJ. One of them is going to be open.
On a double move even, or
Sure.
pump fake, whatever. But I think that's there. That's there this
or
week.
Quick slant out, 7-yard gain right away. Quick slant to AJ, first play.
And then you put it in Saquon's belly.
Right, because, look, Saquon ain't running for 255 this week.
But by the way,
he could run for 130.
I hate the whole we're going to offensive game plan, which is Kellen Moore. I hate the whole guys interviewing multiple places before.
It's nonsense.
It's ridiculous, man.
Yeah,
it's teams running interference is what it is.
I get it, but do I think that it'll have major implications on the game plan? No, I think the game plan's installed.
But you know what
already.
It does have an implication on? And this is something no one talks about, Tech. When you're in the heat of the moment, in anything, I don't care what you do. You're a musician. You're a police officer. You're a teacher. And you are mentally tired more than you would normally be mentally tired.
Or you're thinking
You're
ahead.
exerting energy before that, leading up to that point, when you need to be at your best mentally sharp point. That affects that moment when you are running around, you're interviewing with this team, interviewing with that team.
Here's what I'll say.
It affects that.
Here's why I don't think it's going to be a meet. I saw it all, and I believe me, I agree. I don't think they should be doing this until after the year for everyone.
It's stupid and short-sighted.
Especially because, we're less than a month away, guys. Can't we wait?
Can't we wait?
Can't we wait?
There's an off season.
It's over.
It doesn't make any sense.
You're a month away from being able to interview anywhere you want with anyone.
It's like a McDonald's manager interviewing at Burger King before his McDonald's shift.
I know.
Like, what are you doing, bro? Eat the Big Mac.
Listen, I know.
It's so crazy, bro. I was angry today. I was yesterday.
But here's
very
why I don't
angry.
think it'll have major implications. I agree with you, but
let's hear the breath of fresh air.
All right. On the flip side of this, everything that's going to be done on Sunday, it's already installed and been practiced twice.
You're right.
Tomorrow is a walkthrough day.
I want Kellen to be sharp mentally.
Well,
you
Kellen is doing a Zoom meeting from the Eagle facilities
for these interviews.
Yeah, he'll be doing a Zoom meeting with the Cowboys, and from what I understand, it'll be a 45-minute Zoom meeting at most with 3 of the Cowboys. It'll be Stephen Jones.
That's different. He's not traveling to these places. There's 2 other teams, though.
Zoom meeting.
There's 2 other teams too. There's 2 other teams too.
I think they're all Zoom meetings. I think he's doing Zoom meetings.
That's different. Okay.
And it's going to take about maybe 2.5 hours of his time at the facility tomorrow.
That changes my mind a little bit.
Everything's installed for what you're going to see Sunday.
I'm thinking this guy's hopping on flights before he's getting off the plane.
He's not doing that.
He's going to be tired. He gets back. He hasn't slept. He's been in a crappy hotel.
No. These are Zoom meetings.
All right. I feel a little bit.
And they shouldn't be long. Like I said, these are 30 to 45-minute meetings. And from what I hear, like the Cowboys one's a preliminary one with Stephen Jones and a of the other people.
What a bunch of clowns out there, man. Absolute losers.
They're poaching Kellen Moore.
Loser clowns.
Look, he did enough this season to warrant getting a head coaching job. I certainly think it sucks because I'd like to actually keep an offensive coordinator around for more than a year, but that is the price you pay of being a winning franchise in the NFL.
This happens every year.
It's not only with coaching staff. It's with players. If you want, as a free agent, if, let's say, you had a okay year and you want to really up your stock and make sure that in 2 years you can get you can get big money, go to Philly for a year or two. Sign a year deal with the Eagles. You will up your stock the following
crazy.
year.
It's
Everybody.
a tried and true method.
It's tried and true.
Shane Steicher,
That guy. Forget about him. But
John Ganone.
But that's just as a coach. Look at the players. Look at just recently. Look at Zach Bond. Zach Bond was a nobody in New Orleans. Couldn't get a deal. He was
Speaking of Zach
a nothing
Bond,
deal for a year.
New Art History collab just dropped. Zach Bond, Bald Eagle. Art History.
Oh, yeah?
7045 Frankfurt Avenue. Go pick that one
Bald Eagle,
up.
that's right, because he's got the light. And by the way, because I do the head shave too, and I'm like, how does he get it so mop and glow? I'm like, I love his head.
Well,
his head is shining.
It's the Gillette Sensor Excel.
Yeah, see, I use the electric one, and, I can't, I'm not using a razor.
If you didn't, would you have the Costanza? Would you have the George?
Probably.
You got to do it at some point.
Yeah. I mean, this is what it's all about. So yeah, I'm like, I want it mop and glow shine.
Well, you
like
always have
Zach
a hat
Bond.
on. You always
Well,
have
I'm
a hat.
hat
It doesn't.
I've
What's the
always
point?
been a hat guy, so it doesn't make a difference.
You're going to cover to shine. It's
right.
the difference.
You're 100% right. But
got a hat on right now.
But when I see the shine, I'm like, God, it's glistening.
It is a glistening shine.
Glistens.
Yeah,
it's a phenomenal.
And then he puts a helmet on.
I know. And how about the season he had though? Look at him now.
Man.
He is the top free agent linebacker, one of the top free agents this offseason.
He's not going anywhere. He wants to win rings.
Yeah, and
he's a third-round pick. He's a
here.
workman-like guy. Before this season, if you would have told him, hey, you're going to be an all-pro, he would have been like, yeah, okay.
Right.
He believes in himself, but I'm sure he'd have been like, yeah, well, there's a lot of great linebackers out there. I mean, would have been humble about that.
Absolutely.
But here he is, one of the best linebacker seasons since Luke Kuechly won the Defensive Player of the Year award.
Right.
When you look at the numbers.
I can't help but to look forward. I hate to do it, and it's a foolish thing to do. You're
going to do it anyway.
I can't help but to look forward and already think about, even though, look, rooting for Washington like I've never rooted for him before.
I said it before. I'll say it again. This is why I wanted to avoid Washington in the first round. Jaden Daniels has greatness in him. And the playoffs, the two most key factors for winning playoff games is being turnover-free and your quarterback.
But every game, every big game for him comes down to the last play of the game.
And you know what? I have a feeling that this one is take those points. They're getting 9 points.
Yeah, I think Detroit's going to win this game handily, but
do you really?
I do, but I'm rooting for Washington.
Like a 35-20.
Yeah, because nationally everybody's like, well, if the Eagles can get past the Rams, they'll face Detroit next week. It's like, well, hold on, guys. Detroit has a game this week too.
And we're going to get into talking about all this with our guy Matt Hamilton from Fanduel TV.
Yep.
On the VetLine.
On the VetLine, and I hate to look ahead. That's all I'm saying. I hate to look ahead.
It's hard not to.
But
I mean, look, it's a
can't
football
help it.
game to play, but the Rams are not built to win in
I'm
cold,
already
snowy
looking
weather.
at matchups with Detroit. I'm already like, all right, so we lost Nakobe Dean. He's gone.
That's a huge gap.
Huge.
For us.
Maybe not for this game, but when you got to face Jameer
Kyron
Gibbs
Williams,
and Montgomery,
Kyron Williams is good out the backfield. They're going to be targeting that. I guarantee
he's not
you.
explosive,
yeah,
though.
but McVay is trying to
good.
target that one-on-one with Oren Burks.
You know what? I predict that will be a mistake to target him because I think that the Eagles will compensate for that.
They probably will. They might do some.
They know what it's going to be game plan for.
They might have Nolan Smith drop back in like a fake rush mode sometimes.
Right,
too.
and sometimes, and they already do it. That's why sometimes you'll see Maddox on the field, and you're like, why is Maddox out there? I'll tell you why Maddox is out there. Because they put Zach Bond as the only linebacker out there, and they put 4 DBs, and they bring out an extra DB, and it's Maddox.
Yeah.
So they're going to do that a lot, I think, because they trust Maddox in coverage more than they do.
It's almost like a revised nickel, you know?
Right, and we'll see Trotter Jr. Trotter will get a chance to play.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I mean...
and thinking about the divisional round, I'll get to a great vet fact and a divisional round home win that the Birds had back in 2005.
Right.
Some of our listeners already know what I'm talking about.
You know what? Let's go ahead and get to that. We're going to hit the vet line, like you just said. Matt Hamilton, Fanduel TV. I see the light blinking. We're going to talk NFL playoffs in general.
It's exciting.
But first, brought to you by the Fairless Hills Academy of Music. It's time for VetPhact.
This is a VetPhact.
Well, Tek, as we know, many of the years that the Birds played at the Vet, they were not a playoff team.
No.
The 70s, They made it a couple times in the late 70s, early 80s,
Had to
briefly.
be just a bad team during the Vet era.
It really was. And then you had that little glimmer in the late 80s, early 90s, but they didn't have many home playoff games.
Yes.
And then you had, obviously, the beginning of the McNabb-Reed era was Veterans Stadium. Earlier, I alluded to a vet fact that I was excited to give, but in fact, it was a Linc fact.
This is a pivot. I thought that's what you were going.
I realized that.
Wow. This whole time I was thinking to myself, is that
it was
a
the
vet fact?
Vikings game in the year we went to the Super Bowl in 2004,
Yes.
which was only the second year the Linc was open.
Right.
So we're going to make VetPhact history here.
Here we go. VetPhact history.
This is unfortunately the first loss of any kind I am ever giving on any VetPhact, whether it's Phils or Eagles.
Right. First loss.
The last game ever played at Veterans Stadium.
Oh!
The Tampa Bay
Finally,
Buccaneers.
It reaches VetPhact status.
I mean, the Bucs came in. Deuce Staley, we go right into the end zone early. It's 7-0. The crowd's going absolutely bonkers.
Yep.
They're up early. And then at that point, the Birds only score 3 more points.
Yeah.
For the rest of the game, losing the NFC Championship 27-10 in front of 66,713 fans, January 19th, 2003. Whoa, Tek. January 19th, 2025 is the Rams game.
Yes.
I don't like that. That kind of bothers me. You know why that bothers me? Because
But that was Vet era.
true, but think back to that game. How sure were we that we were going to the Super Bowl? How sure?
You're right.
How positive were we? There's no way.
You're right.
They're losing to a warm weather team
You're right.
at the Vet. And John Gruden comes back.
Oh, yeah.
Former Eagles assistant.
Well, that's the thing. There is no John Gruden coming back
No,
in this
McVay,
scenario.
I don't care how much Adderall Sean McVay takes before this game. They are not winning. So Donovan McNabb on that day had to throw the ball 49 times.
That's what Andy Reid did.
They only gave it to Deuce and Westbrook a combined 15 carries.
I don't know why.
It did that. You know, when you look back at this era, them losing that game specifically.
That's why they lost.
And Brad Johnson, we talked about Brad Johnson, or we're
Yep.
going to talk about Brad Johnson.
Game manager.
The game manager. He's going to interview with the Cowboys.
Yes. That's right, yeah.
20 for 33, 259, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. I mean, a Brad Johnson type of day.
Yeah.
But it was enough to win because Joe Jurevicius just absolutely
I hate that
punished
man.
us.
I hate
1 catch for 71 yards.
Jesus
And that's all it took to seal the deal. Because the
I'll never
Birds had a
forget it.
chance at that point. They still kind of had a glimmer of hope. And then Rondé Barber steps in front of a ball.
That was one of the biggest heartbreakers of my life. That game and the greatest show on turf. We almost had them, the Rams.
I
We
know,
almost
yeah,
had them.
and their first real run at a Super Bowl
right.
together.
Well, they were St. Louis then, but yeah,
They were. It was a Rams team. Yeah, you know, in playoff history against the Rams, I think we're actually 1-2. I think all time against the Rams in the playoffs. Not many. Not much of a sample size, but they're going to pull even this week. But there you have it, Tek. Unfortunately, VetPhact history, January 19th, 2003, which will be exactly 22 years ago from the day of Sunday's divisional round game against the LA Rams at the Linc.
Yeah.
I got to say it, Tek. Go Birds.
Go Birds. All right, this is the time of the show where I normally go, the Sixers, Prem, and I start talking about this. They're so disgraceful.
They're cooked already.
That we're just going to move right along to the vet line. The light is blinking.
Absolutely.
Let's hit the vet line, talk to Matt Hamilton from Fanduel TV. It's coming up next.
Vet Alumni. And now, it's the Vet Line.
Why don't you answer your phone?
Joined now on the vet line by Matt Hamilton, the on-air senior producer for Up and Adams Show, Tek.
Yes,
He's been on with us
sir.
before, coming back on to talk some playoff football. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Appreciate you guys having me back. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. You know, the Birds look like what we thought they were, which is a strong defensive team with a multifaceted offense, which seems to be run heavy, of course. What do you think offensively after all the talk about the passing game lacking and this about Jalen, that about Jalen? What do you think the attack is going to look like this week?
And all the talk is still going on.
It sure is.
It's unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, I think, we'll see how the Rams adjust after what happened last time, but you got to think it's going to be run heavy again. And, the Rams D line is coming off a great game. They had those 9 sacks against Sam Darnold and all of that. And, they've had a great year. They're super athletic up front, but they're also a little light in the ass up front. And this Eagles offensive line was able to push them around last time. And I don't care what you do scheme wise, it's hard to make up for that because
Right.
At the end of the day, it's,
We're bigger than you, and we know it.
Yeah, exactly. So I would expect the Eagles to try to impose their will again physically up front. And if the Rams really do sell out to try to take that away, which they may do, obviously there's a lot of talent in that receiving core and with Jalen, and they can make them pay through the air. So the Rams have been playing extremely well these last, basically 3 months ever since their bye week. But I think this is just an especially bad draw for them. Like if they were playing the Lions, I think they'd have a chance at an upset. Against the Birds, it's hard for me to see it happening.
Yeah, well, we are glad to hear you say that because we feel the same way. It's going to be a snowy affair. It's going to be kind of sloppy out there, and that always benefits the stronger football team, especially in the trenches. Yep. I tend to agree with you. I think this could be a 10-point Birds win. Matt Stafford 1-8 in bad weather games in his career. I saw that number and I was blown away. I mean, that's really surprising. I mean, but that's football. Some guys are just built to win in warm weather. What do you think if the Rams were going to win, what do you think they would have to do to make that happen and get this crazy upset here in Philly?
Yeah, it would take, I think they would really have to stack the box and hope, when the Eagles decide to throw, they're able to get to Jalen, maybe force a couple turnovers. Offensively, they have to play the time of possession game a little bit, I think, too, on their end, which they've done at times this year with Kyron Williams. We'll see how much the weather is going to be a factor. Obviously, it looks like snow right now, and like you just said, that number of Matthew Stafford is crazy. I think we talked about this before. I was working for the Lions for one of those games. Probably the most famous of those games, the Shady McCoy game.
Oh yeah, 2013.
Yeah. So I was there. I was up in the booth, staying warm, but pretty miserable day from that perspective.
That's right. You were a scout for the Lions, right?
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
So. The season never recovered after that. That pretty much ruined the whole Lions season that year. But because I think coming in, it was like looking like the playoffs were a lock, and then it just completely collapsed. But that's a whole other story. But
I remember that game well. I was at the bar in Pittsburgh. I went to Pitt, and I was at the bar in Pittsburgh watching that game, just blown away at what I was seeing.
It was nuts. I was
up in that game too, weren't they? They were up.
I think so.
Yeah. Eagles stormed back in the second half.
Yep, I think it might have even been at halftime that we were up, and it was crazy because it was my first. Not to totally divert from the subject, but it was just it is still like it's still, even though it was like horribly devastating at the time, it's still a cool memory because it was such a historic game, and we still see so many images from it. But I just remember like one of the things they had me doing was like watching the kickers to see like, okay, what distance can he actually make anything from here, right. Like. Nobody was kicking in that game. I was like, this is pointless. I can't even see. It was like a whiteout. And they also had me watching. The one thing I was able to do is I was able to figure out Chip Kelly's signals, because the Eagles basically ran 3 plays the entire time.
Wow.
Split zone being the most effective, and even knowing it was coming, he still couldn't stop Shady.
That's crazy, man. That's a good little tidbit right there. Chip Kelly's sign stealing.
Yes, that's awesome. I wonder if he still is doing that.
It's a part of the game.
It is. It's a part of the game. It's a part of the chess match, if you will, which just goes on no matter what the sport is, really. And sometimes they involve trash can banging, apparently, out in Houston. That's a whole other topic in itself. So, all right. We know we're all on the same page. Birds win. I think that's a consensus around the football world. What are you looking at in this Washington-Detroit matchup now to take it back to your roots with that game out there coming up with Jaden Daniels going in?
Yeah, because nationally they're treating it like it's a bye week for Detroit.
Yeah.
Right. That's a risk. That's a tricky game right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's definitely with how banged up this Lions defense is, and what they did to Minnesota was incredible, and not to take that away, and that I think definitely calmed down some of the fears about that defense being so banged up. But this Washington offense is tough, man, and Jaden, you are not going to rattle Jaden like you did Sam Darnold.
Right.
I can tell you that right now.
Right.
That guy, he doesn't flinch. I mean, you guys, not to.
We know well.
But
Yeah,
we
know.
You saw it a couple weeks ago.
Yes, we did.
That's why I wanted to avoid Washington in the first round.
Yeah.
At all costs.
Yeah, it all ended up working out for them because I think they wanted to avoid you guys too for obvious reasons.
Right.
But yeah, no, he's not going to be rattled by anything. He almost gets better the more pressure and the more the higher the stakes are. Like, it just seems like it brings even
for
more
a
out of
rookie,
it.
that is phenomenal. I mean,
it's like Dan Marino-esque.
Yeah.
Because Dan Marino in his rookie year goes to the Super Bowl,
Crazy.
Yeah, it reminds me of Mahomes a little bit too, and just seeing him at the end of that Tampa game and him just smiling in the face of the Tampa defenders in a tie game in the fourth quarter on the road. I'm like, are you? It's ridiculous. So I wouldn't put it past Washington to take this game.
Wow.
I still do think the Lions are going to win.
Me too.
But Washington's not going to back down, and I think they're going to make this competitive. I think they can put up some points on this defense, given what's going on there. So it's really going to come down to if Jaden can protect the ball, they're going to stay in this game. You just got to worry about Kirby and that secondary, and they force a lot of takeaways. They got ball hawks. If he can avoid those mistakes, I think they got a chance to win.
Yeah. That spread's a bit. I would take that Washington plus 8.5 personally.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they keep it close.
With 3 real contenders left, who do you see coming out of the AFC?
In the AFC. Okay, I was going to say, wait, 3.
No, in the AFC.
All right,
AFC, there's 3
3
real contenders.
Yeah, there's 3.
It is, yeah, and they all have great cases to be that team.
Oh yeah.
It's tough because it's tough to go against Mahomes. I mean, he the way he's found ways to just get the job done this year. This team, it's nuts. I mean, what we saw last year, that team had no business winning. That team was not a Super Bowl caliber team for
with the
the
Chiefs,
entire regular season.
You're not just going up against Mahomes. You're going up against Mahomes and the officials. You know what I mean? It's like Gladys Knight and the Pips.
Ask Joe Burrow. Ask Joe Burrow about that, man.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem.
I'm not going to get into all that. I'll let you guys say that.
Matt's got to be careful with that kind of talk.
Diplomatic. I understand that. You know what? I respect it.
But they're such a tough out. But I really do think, I don't know, everything broke their way in the regular season. Like last year is kind of the opposite, right? Like things kind of broke against them in the regular season, and they lost a bunch of tight games. And this year, they just every game that they could have lost just ended up breaking their way. And I feel like that luck tends to even out sometimes. And I feel like the Ravens are just so impressive to me. I think the Ravens A game is better than any of those other teams' A game. The problem with the Ravens is they don't always come with their A game.
Exactly. I was just going to say that. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Zay Flowers being out is a part of that too. I mean,
that's
key.
And that's big. But I do feel like too, like we haven't fully seen this Lamar Derrick Henry thing completely unleashed. If you look at times this year, like they've kind of held it back at times. And we saw it in the Pittsburgh game more. Like they're taking some stuff off Lamar's plate as a passer in these playoff games, and they're going to give you these read option looks and all the eye candy in the backfield, and it's friggin' so hard to stop. I mean, it's not that different from what the Eagles are doing with Jalen and Saquon.
True,
but Lamar is a little bit more explosive when he gets the ball in his hands. And it happens a little bit faster because he is as quick as he is. So I think this is the way that defenses come together. I don't know if I've ever seen a team improve that much defensively in the middle of the season the way the Ravens did. I mean, they were dead last in almost every category. Number one in the league in total defense, pass defense, all of it over the second half of the season. A little bit of that has to do with schedule, but they got so much better since they made some of those changes to the secondary, put Kyle Hamilton back at free safety, all that. I just love the way they're playing right now and the pieces they have. I do think this is the year the Ravens finally make it out of the AFC. It's not going to be easy, but I think that
Battle of the Birds.
I believe in
possible.
this Ravens team.
Yeah, no, I think you might be right. I think the Bills. I think Bills Ravens is the game for who represents
that's
the
the game of the week. Yeah, that's the game
for sure. You
Yeah.
You got to give D'Amico Ryans a little bit of a glimmer of a chance, though.
Listen, I'll be rooting for the Texans just out of pure Chiefs fatigue.
Me too.
I will be rooting for the Texans. I just don't see it. I see it even if it's a 6-point game or whatever at the 2-minute warning. The officials are going to find some kind of phantom defensive pass interference.
He goes back to the officials,
and Mahomes, they'll put Mahomes on the 4-yard line, and then they win the game. It's like this is how I just see it.
See, Matt,
out.
Tech has PTSD from the Super Bowl.
Well, but it's like this all the time. He does it. It's like every game, like that Raiders game. The Raiders had no business winning that game or coming close to win that game, and they almost did. And then some phantom penalty. It should have been a false start. It wasn't. They counted the fumble. It goes back to the Chiefs. They win it. It's like, are you kidding me?
We get it.
It's every game. It's like some sort of. You got to be up 9 like Buffalo did. You got to be up by more than one possession.
Yeah, even then, right.
The Super Bowl against the Niners,
right? So you know what I'm saying.
The last time they played the Texans in the playoffs, or the Texans were up like 21-3. It doesn't seem to matter. It's insane.
Wow, I forgot about that game. Yeah.
This is the Texans. I can only.
So he's going Ravens. I'm going Ravens, Birds in the Super Bowl. Tech, what are you going in the Super Bowl? Where are you going?
That would be fun.
I want the Chiefs again.
You want Chiefs, Birds?
I want that part 2. I want it.
So Matt, who do you have coming out of the NFC? Don't worry, you're not going to hurt our feelings.
I think right now you look top to bottom. I don't think there's anybody more complete than the Eagles right now.
Right. I think you're right.
When it comes from coaching, just the roster construction, all of it, the Lions injuries are going to catch up with that. If it was a fully healthy Lions team, I would give the Lions the edge.
That's fair. Yeah.
But
it's defensively, right.
Yeah. But it's not. And I think, with what the Eagles can do defensively, I think they can slow down that Lions offense enough. And I think the Lions are going to have a tough time stopping this Eagles offense with the way they operate. And even if they make it in ugly, the Eagles and that's the thing, all the freaking out about the Eagles offense. Like the Eagles can win ugly. Like that's how this team is built to win ugly. They're a great defensive team with a monster offensive line. They don't need to do what the Lions do every week because they don't have to because they have the defense. So, if it gets into that track me type of a game, I think they can keep up, but I don't think it will. I think they can ugly this thing up. And when you ugly the game up, that works against Jared Goff too. Goff has been tremendous. Yeah. He's reinvented himself. He's done an amazing job in Detroit, but we've seen times where he can get a little rattled and make some mistakes. And the Eagles have the ability to do that to him. So not that we want to get too far ahead of ourselves yet, but
no, exactly.
If it comes down to that game, with where these two teams are right now, I would have to go with the Eagles.
Yeah. I think it would be within a field goal either way. But you might be right. Just on the back of the defense, that's the great playoff equalizer.
Yeah,
I always say it when you have a defense that we held Joe Burrow to 17 points, Lamar Jackson really to 12. They backdoored 7 late, got 19.
Yeah.
And one of those games, Jaden Daniels scores 18, and obviously we know he got 1 against us. Right. But you look at most of these elite quarterbacks we faced, or really good quarterbacks, they struggle against this defense. It's very true.
Yeah.
But Nakobe Dean being out is a concern for me. Yeah. What is your feeling on that as far as our linebacker spot with Dean being out this week?
Yeah, it is something to be worried about. I think they're so strong in the rest of this defense, and those D tackles being so good, it's going to help. I didn't think Burks played horribly, but he got exploited a few times. The lack of athleticism showed up there a few times against the Packers. So it's definitely, that's going to be the weak spot of this defense now, where there really wasn't a weak spot before. but I think it's something you can cover enough, and you give Fangio enough time. I saw him, I remember in San Francisco when he had both Bowman and Willis out at points, and he was still getting it done with, with the backups. Like he can find a way to cover guys, to cover up those weaknesses. You give him a week to plan around it. I think they'll be fine. And again, Burks is a guy who started a bunch of games in this league. So, I'm not overly concerned about it, but it definitely hurts, especially if they do get to that, the way the Lions can run the ball, assuming we get that NFC Championship game that I think
we're looking ahead. We're looking ahead.
That's what I was doing. I was looking ahead, and the first thing I looked ahead to when I thought about Eagles-Lions was Jahmyr Gibbs versus that side of the linebacker on that side of the field where it would be Oren Burks or Trotter Jr. It's like
singled up on like a running back flare route or a running back go route.
I can't help but to look ahead to that matchup, even though I know we got a game. There's
a lot of good football. A lot of good football to watch this weekend.
Before we let you go, Matt, what's your take? News came down this week, and it's a whole ton of negative reactions from the fan base. The Cowboys are poaching Kellen Moore, interviewing him. It's a Zoom meeting. It's really not that big of a deal, but I know fans hate it.
Can't stand it.
Yeah, they think it should be, poach him at the end of the season when they can do whatever.
Wait a month.
Yeah, it's only a month away. What is your take on the Cowboys coaching search? I mean, obviously Kellen Moore's going to interview. They already talked to Dion. They're talking to everybody. What's the feel from your end? What are you seeing on the Cowboys coaching search?
I mean, they're talking to Brian Johnson too. Maybe they'll take him.
The game
but I think it's gonna be Dion. I feel like everything in my, because Dion can say whatever he wants. Dion, let's not forget when Dion was at Jackson State, it was I'm going to stay here, build up the HBCUs, do all this, bring HBCU football back. The first check he got, he was out the door.
Yeah, he's Deion Sanders.
I don't believe I don't believe anything he's saying about if the money is there and he has you have a chance to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, you're taking the friggin' job, especially your son's graduated. Like, you're taking the job.
He's built for that job too.
And I think Jerry wants him. It's the ultimate Jerry hire. It's all the flash. It's all the style. It's the former player coming back in. It just has Cowboys written all over it. So I think that's ultimately what we end up seeing happen. If Dion stays at Colorado, then it gets interesting because from everything we're hearing, it's like it's Jerry leading the search by himself. It's going to be, obviously
it's absurd.
I don't care. I don't care who they hire. Dion ain't playing quarterback.
No.
Yeah.
And I heard they wanted Jason Witten to be like the offensive coordinator or some nonsense.
Didn't Jason Witten do 1 year in the Monday Night Football booth?
He did. He was so awful. He was gone after a year.
Yeah. It's I don't know if Dion. I think there's a legitimate chance Jason Witten could be the head coach if Dion doesn't take the job. I wouldn't put anything past Jerry now.
We can only hope.
Yeah. I mean, look, they've been a train wreck for many years, and I think the last time they played in a Super Bowl, Tech, the number one song might have been the Macarena.
It might have been before the Macarena.
It might have been.
I don't even know if I don't think the Macarena was even out yet.
Macarena wasn't even out yet. Yeah,
right, that's what I'm saying. It might be before that. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Bill Clinton was president.
Yes.
That's how bad it is out there. Unreal. Well, hey, Matt, thanks again for taking the time to talk ball with us. Playoffs, best time of year. What's better than January football? We appreciate you coming on to the Vet Line, and maybe we'll all be right. And it will be a Birds Super Bowl.
That would be good.
Battle of the Birds.
That would be fun. Appreciate you guys having me.
It's time for Prem's Picks.
These games are a blowout, a human lock. You can bet your children's unborn children on these games.
Prem's Picks. It's the playoffs, so we're both picking.
It's the Vet Alumni Picks.
It is. It's
for
the
Vet
Vet
next
Alumni
few
Picks.
weeks.
So how did we do?
We both went 5-1.
Okay, yes.
We had different losses, though. You had the Chargers beating the Texans. We know what happened there. And I had the Vikings beating the Rams. We know what happened there. Other than that, we pretty much, picked along the betting lines. The wild card weekend is typically a pretty easy round to pick. In
Yeah,
general. We're 5-1.
Yeah, typically, I just, I was let down by the Chargers. I just,
Herbert's a fraud.
I thought Justin Herbert would have made the difference. I thought Harbaugh would have made the difference with Herbert, and it just didn't happen.
No.
And, give the Texans credit. They played a better game.
That leads me to the divisional round and the first game we're going to.
All righty.
Which is the aforementioned Houston Texans and DeMeco Ryans heading to Sparrowhead to take on the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep. I'm going with the Chiefs in this one.
Of course you are.
I'm going with Kansas City.
I think that the Texans secondary is better than people realize.
Yeah, I think so,
And
too.
I think that Patrick Mahomes has not been the Patrick Mahomes that we expect to see pretty much all season. That defense, like Matt talked about, they won weird all year. That defense carried them this year.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Birds' defense in some games, but even more, especially early in the season.
Yeah.
That defense saved their ass, for lack of a better term, against many AFC opponents early. Give me the Texans in the big upset.
Wow!
Give me the Texans in the big upset to go to their first AFC Championship game. Former Eagles linebacker DeMeco Ryans. I think C.J. Stroud is actually going to look more like the C.J. Stroud that we saw last year. I think he's going to rise up to the occasion. I like what they have on offense. I think Nico Collins is a legitimate.
I'll be rooting for him. I'm
Me
rooting
too.
for the
Me
Texans.
too.
I'm picking the Chiefs, but I'm rooting for the Texans.
Give me the Texans in a field goal game.
There we go.
All right, so there's our first game. Commanders at Lions.
Do you mean the national bye week for
The
Detroit?
National Detroit bye week. We heard Matt. I mean, that's a national guy right there, being very candid, and a former Lions employee nonetheless.
Right.
Being very candid about the fact that he thinks
Another
that the
game where
Commanders
I
can
am
win this game.
rooting for Washington because I want that NFC Championship home
But you're
game.
keeping it safe.
But I'm picking Detroit. Detroit. I think it's Detroit double digits.
I am not keeping it safe. I think that the Commanders go in there, and Jaden Daniels on a late drive where he faces probably 2 4th downs, like a 4th and 7, and like a 4th and 2. He makes a miraculous throw to get the 4th and 7, then he scrambles for 2.5 yards for the 4th and 2.
Wow.
And then hits Zacchaeus in the
Listen,
back of the end
I
zone
thought the Texans
for the game
was
winner.
a shocker, but you just jumped out the window with this.
Give me the Commanders 27-24.
You're giving a score?
27-24. Give me the
Oh my
Commanders
goodness gracious.
in Motor City to set up the amazing scenario of a division matchup for the NFC crown at Lincoln Financial Field Tech.
Wow.
All right, next game. Birds, Rams. We know we're not. We're just not even.
I think
know.
we both go Birds there.
both
yeah.
go Birds.
Yeah.
Bills, Ravens. Ravens at Bills.
This is a toss-up game for me. This is a tough pick.
And even Vegas has it as a tough pick. They have Baltimore as a 1-point favorite, which is
yeah,
a pick.
and we just heard Matt Hamilton pick Baltimore. I was thinking all week about this game, and I was thinking, is Lamar going to show up? Because I would typically
That's
pick
always
the
been
Ravens.
the knock.
I would
yes.
pick the Ravens in this game, except I just don't know if he can pull it off.
I would love to see Ravens, Eagles in the Super Bowl, but Bills have been my Super Bowl pick all year.
Right.
And I'm sticking. I think it's Josh Allen's turn to become the next Jim Kelly and lose a Super Bowl. And I think that's what happens this year. The Bills get to the Super Bowl and lose to our Birds. And that's my pick for the Super Bowl. Although, like we said earlier, I would love to see Birds Ravens.
Before Matt Hamilton, who just picked the Ravens, before he did that.
He turned you the other way a little bit?
No, before he did that, what's been haunting me for the last few days is Vegas's pick. Vegas having the Ravens, being the favorite, has
It's an
kind
insult to the Bills.
It's kind of been in my head all week. Vegas is picking the. So, and even a lot of the national guys are picking the Ravens. So it's really.
It's messing with your compass.
It is, because I knew last week that I was coming in here and picking the Bills.
And guess what? Now you're picking the Ravens.
I don't know that I'm picking the Ravens.
Okay, all right.
I think I got to stick with the Bills.
It's fair. I mean, I can't be mad at you because I think that when it comes down to the come down,
Man,
it's going to be a one-score game in the fourth quarter either way, right?
Lamar, I want to be able to trust Lamar. Like Matt, we just heard Matt say it, that he thinks this is the year that Lamar does get over that hump.
I think Josh Allen is a better overall player than Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
And that's hard to say. Lamar had an amazing
Bills
season.
Are a better overall team than the Ravens.
And they're at home. Where,
I'm going Buffalo
in
here.
the playoffs,
I am.
Their home record in that stadium is absolutely ridiculous.
I'm going to stick with my original pick. I'm not going to be bothered by Vegas or be influenced too heavy by Matt Hamilton. So I'm going to stick with my original pick that all along I was going with would be Buffalo. I think it's Buffalo, Kansas City in the AFC Championship game. I thought that pretty much most of the year, so I'm going to stick with
Sticking
that.
to your guns.
I'm going Buffalo.
Well, there you have it. There's the second round of the Vet Alumni Playoff Picks. I'm excited to see how this shakes out.
Me too. It's look, I know you've listened to the radio, you've watched YouTube, you've watched the national shows all week, and I know a lot of Philadelphia fans are sitting out there saying what we've been saying this entire show, which is kind of looking ahead, and this is a win. It could be a double-digit win, but make no mistake, this is a big game. This is a big,
it's a statement game.
You either go home and it's Heartbreak Hotel here,
right,
or it's you're punching a ticket to the NFC Championship.
This would be catastrophic if they lose this
Absolutely.
game. This would be catastrophic for the whole regime here.
Yes.
There would be calls for Nick Sirianni to be fired.
And even though I wanted his head on a stick earlier this year,
the guy's a good football coach.
I don't want him to be fired.
He's a good
even
football
if they
coach.
lose.
The guys play for him. They believe in him. They love him.
And that matters to me more than how I personally feel about it.
Right, of course, because you're a realist and you know that the reality is in that locker room, that's who matters.
But like you said, this would be catastrophic.
Absolutely catastrophic.
Disastrous.
It would be on par with the Birds losing to the Bucks, like we mentioned in the VetPhact.
Absolutely. So make no mistake, people, this is a very, very big game that the Eagles have to get up for. Birds got to be up for this one.
I want to see a convincing, dominant win. I think there's a good chance, Tek. I told you last week the Birds would win by 10+. I said it on the show, 27-16. It was very close to that score. I think this week, again, is a 10+ point Birds victory.
There it is. There it is. We will see you next week. Go Birds.
Vet Alumni.